Hey everyone, and thank you for tuning in to today's video update from the Hurricane Tracker app, recorded Thursday, September the 6th, around 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot going on in both basins. Over here in the Eastern Pacific Basin, we have Hurricane Norman, which is a Category 3 hurricane, which is moving towards the northwest, going to be passing well north of Hawaii and weakening over the next few days. So Norman is not a concern, other than some rough seas along the northern shores of the islands. And way to the east, we have Hurricane Olivia, which is a Category 3 storm. We'll take a closer look at the latest forecast track from the National Hurricane Center, as this could get relatively close to Hawaii in several days. We have another invest out here off south of the coast of Mexico that's threatening to develop. We have Tropical Depression Gordon located over the southern United States, still bringing some rainfall and some flooding concerns to parts of the country. We have Invest 92L, which is a tropical wave that has a high chance of development. And we have a new tropical wave, which will be moving off the coast of Africa tomorrow, which has a medium chance of development. So in this video today, we're going to take a look at Olivia, Invest 92L, the new wave off Africa, and of most concern, Hurricane Florence. So here is the latest forecast from the National Hurricane Center for Olivia. You can see it is a major hurricane. It'll begin weakening a little bit this weekend, and it will be moving generally, it's moving west-northwest now, but it'll bend more towards the west. And you can see the cone of uncertainty does get pretty close to Hawaii, although it should be a tropical storm early next week, but we will watch this closely to see if any impacts to Hawaii will occur. And of course, we'll keep you updated here in the Hurricane Tracker app. Invest 92L is the wave that has already moved off the coast of Africa. You can see in the satellite image on the left, it's still very disorganized. It's not a classic looking tropical wave at the moment by any means, but there's a lot of energy here, and it is forecasted to become better organized over the next few days as it reaches better environmental conditions that are going to be more favorable for development. And you can see it could develop anywhere in the shaded cone within the next 5 days, and there's a 90% chance of development through the next 5 days per the latest National Hurricane Center outlook. Here's a look at the ensemble models for Invest 92L. And when you have a system that is not even developed yet and there's no clear, well-defined center, it's always best to look at the ensemble members to see if there's a trend or if they're kind of all going in a certain direction. And what we see in today's ensemble runs is the European model has two camps. All of the members of the European ensemble suite that make the storm, very strong into a strong hurricane do curve this north into a weakness out here into the Central Atlantic, while the members of the European ensemble that keep the storm weaker, such as a tropical storm or a minimal hurricane, track the system more west-northwest to into the Eastern Caribbean next week, which of course would be concerning. And then you look at the GFS ensemble members, and they're outside of a couple that want to take the storm to the north, most of the GFS ensemble members are in agreement with a general west-northwest track, in a pretty narrow cone at this point, over the next 7 days. So bottom line, those of you in the Caribbean, you need to keep close tabs on this. There's no imminent threat to any land areas, but as we get into later next week, it could be approaching the Caribbean. Here's our possible 7-day cone we issued last night for Invest 92L. We do believe that sometime this weekend it should become a depression, likely Tropical Storm Helene by the time we get into early next week, and then a hurricane towards the middle to later portions of next week. And it could be anywhere within this cone. It could take a more northerly route, as I just showed you that some of the European ensemble members are forecasting, or it could take a more southerly or western route towards the Caribbean. Behind 92L, we do have a new tropical wave that is set to move off the coast tomorrow. It's been given a medium chance of development at 60%. Now, unlike 92L, we believe this storm is more likely to go more west or west-northwest like Florence did, versus more of a westerly track such as the one that Invest 92L is taking. Nevertheless, it is a threat to develop, and it will need to be watched closely over the next several days. All right, now I want to move to Hurricane Florence. You can see that in the latest visible satellite loop before the sun goes down, the storm is looking very ragged. It's been facing some pretty strong upper level wind shear over the last 24 hours or so. And this has caused the storm to weaken significantly. Remember, yesterday Florence was a Category 4 hurricane. It is now weakened to a Category 1 hurricane with winds of 80 miles per hour. And you can't see it well here, but Florence is forecasted to reach a more favorable environment. And by days 3, 4, and 5 out here next week, it is forecasted to strengthen back to a major hurricane. The storm is turned towards the west-northwest and will actually turn towards the west over the next couple of days before resuming more of a northwest course. And the cone of uncertainty now places Bermuda at risk here within the next 5 days. So those of you in Bermuda, you could be impacted by Florence Monday or Tuesday next week. So be paying very close attention to the progress of Florence this weekend and into early next week. We still have a large model spread. If you look at all of the global models, which are indicated by the bold lines, and then all of the ensemble members are the thinner spaghetti plots, if you will. And right now, the yellow lines are the UKMet, the UK Met British model suite, and they're furthest to the south here, just north of the Caribbean and off the southeast United States coast. Then you've got the European and its ensemble members, which threaten the mid-Atlantic and portions of New England here sometime later portions of next week. And then you have the GFS and its ensemble members, which are furthest to the east, which are showing tracks more out into the open Atlantic. So the bottom line is we are what we know today is Florence is going to miss the trough, the incoming trough of low pressure as indicated here. Let me turn them back on my annotation tool here. So you can see this area of low pressure is indicated by the blue shading. This is a trough of low pressure that is digging south into the central Atlantic. Unfortunately, it's not strong enough and it's not digging south far enough in order to pick up Florence and take it out into the open Atlantic, which is what happens 90% of the time for storms that are located here in the central Atlantic. It's very tough climatologically to get these storms to make it as far west as the United States East Coast. But what we know today is it's a 9 in 10 chance that Florence is going to miss the path out into the open Atlantic. And as we get into early next week, a strong ridge of high pressure in the upper layers of the atmosphere, and I will draw out the contours of the area of high pressure, will be situated like this with very high anomalies compared to climatology. And the winds around the high pressure are clockwise. And if Florence is underneath this ridge, which all indications are today, it appears she will be, the chances are increasing that Florence will be steered west, towards the United States eastern seaboard. Now, whether or not it makes landfall along the East Coast, that can't be answered today. This storm is still a week out from potentially impacting any land masses. But what we do know is that it's going to be moving in the direction of the East Coast. It's likely to get very close to the shore, within a couple hundred miles, or even possibility of landfall is there based on looking at a lot of the latest guidance. So it's becoming an increasing threat. No need to worry at this point, but we want to start raising awareness and have folks really start paying attention to future forecasts of Florence. So we have issued our 10-day long-range impact chance, and based on all the latest data, which we look at and review every 6 hours, we see the highest threat right now for Florence to track would be somewhere from South Carolina all the way up into southern New England, with the highest probabilities being near the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And of course, we have an 80% chance that Bermuda is going to be impacted by Florence sometime next week, even if it's just the outer bands of the storm, if there's not a direct landfall. So right now we see about a 60% chance, a 6 out of 10 chance that Florence will impact some portion of the United States coast. That's not 100%. There's still some room for this storm to not make landfall or not come as close as the models are showing today. And again, the good news is we still have several days to watch the model runs and to watch what the storm is doing. And, you know, we'll definitely keep you updated here at the Hurricane Tracker app. If you want to track all of these systems and you don't have a tracking app, you can go to our website at www.hurtracker.com, or just open up your Google Play or Apple App Store, search Hurricane Tracker, look for this icon, and you can download our app, which provides the most in-depth coverage and data on tropical storms for mobile devices. We'll be back with another video update as conditions warrant. Thank you so much for using the Hurricane Tracker app and for watching our video update today, and have a great Thursday evening.